Welcome back. Another question on kefir that I'm asked is, can I explain about how to deep freeze your kefir? The grains need to be stored. Well, that kind of follows on from my previous video, which was about what to do in hot weather and how it changes how things work. This is the result of making kefir. These are your grains. This is the jar they came out of, and this is the grains. Now, that's lovely. That sort of quantity I'm working with. But let's supposing this was half the grains and you wanted to either reduce the quantity, which is what I do when there's hot weather and it's going fast. So instead of taking 1.5 to 2 days, it's taking just under a day. I don't want twice the amount of kefir, so I reduce the quantity of grains. Now that is the maximum I would use. But if I wanted to cut it in half, I would do so. When it gets bigger, I cut it down. Now let me just show you, it's very easy. You just put half of it into making your kefir and you store the other half. It'll soon grow. Now, how do I store it? That's what this video is about. I'm going to show you. Basically, I like to store it in both cling film, and if you haven't got cling film, don't worry, you can just use lots and lots of freezer bags. But if you can afford them and they're not too expensive where you live, these are quite good. This is one option, if I could get into it. There we are. I quite like something that's fairly stiff at this point, because you've got to get them back out of the bag, and you will see, because my next video is how to defrost them. So you'll see exactly what the problem is. So I'm going to show you two different methods I use. This one is a nice thick strong bag, so I've got a nice neat line. I've got a little bit stuck, maybe I just have to live with that, and I make it into a nice tube. Why? Because I can get it out easy. Once it goes into the corners, it can be quite difficult, so I then just roll it up. I get rid of the air, which everybody knows, and put my zipper on it. Now what I'm trying to do with this is to pad it, insulate it from the deep freeze, because the one thing that seems to kill kefir, there we are, let out the last little bits of air. The one thing that seems to do it in is freezer burning. And I take the cling film and I roll it tightly in the cling film, and should have brought some scissors in, but I'm not in the kitchen because of the heat wave. It's really hot, and I'm sure it's hot where you are if you're in Europe. There we are. Now that is distinctive. You'll know what that is in your deep freeze. And I find that probably one of the most convenient ways. When I open them, I just literally unpull the cling film, and then I can just cut along the bottom of the bag. Or I can unravel it, unzip it, and I can literally push out the tube, which I can then pop directly into the milk of a jar and let it melt into the jar. It's really not that difficult. But if you have got these as expensive, because I buy this in great big huge quantities, then don't. You can use this system. So if you have these sort of freezer bags, which are what I call thin and crispy, these are not quite so easy to use. And the best system I have found is to get your bag open, and what you're aiming to do is to get your kefir right into the middle like that. Okay. Now I'm going to try and keep it in a little ball in the middle. Turn it over once and then turn it together in the middle. Now I can pull it into a little tight ball. Then I managed to do this. You may find a better way for your bits and bobs that you've got where you are that you can buy that are not that expensive. If you're neat, you could even put a knot. But I don't like to waste the plastic. It's bad for the environment and for the pocket. And then what I do is I do this over and over and over. You can keep it in your freezer for, well, I personally have defrosted over a year old. They say up to a year, but I always take my oldest ones out first because that way it just makes sense to me. Then I've got these little funny things that they always make far too small, and I'm very cat-handed anyway. Now, I then take my second bag because I have found long-term storage, what isn't wrapped well, it doesn't seem to do that well. Some of it will, but little bits of it don't, and I don't want that. So I clump it all together, so I pull that down and then I put it all in and I just repeat this twisty thing and flip it over thing, and that produces quite a nice little ball depending on the sort of bags that I have at the time. Now these are all freezer bags, but freezer bags vary in their quality and how long they keep in the deep freeze. This will protect it because your inside freezer bag is being protected by the outside freezer bags. So there you are. And I don't need to worry about what that little ball is. There'll be nothing in my deep freeze that's like that. I then stand these at the front, and when I take something out, I go to the back. And so they're always used in rotation. That will keep up to a year. That's what everyone says. I've actually used them slightly over a year, but it's useful in hot weather when you've got things happening too fast and you don't need all of that. So keep it cut down. Keep it cut down really small, and then you can use a smaller quantity. So that's how to deep freeze your kefir grains.